Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Aquarian Mind podcast. Today's podcast episode number 297. I'm your host, Jamel Crothers. It's Book Insight Friday, and it's time to talk about Alphabet City Part 9. Yeah, this is getting very interesting. I'm getting closer to the end of my goal of publishing 12 books this year, and then I'm also getting ready to hit the mark of 300 podcasts. So there's a lot that's going on here. All right, let's get into Alphabet City 9 because it was a book that I didn't expect to be as long as it is. Originally, I only had 10 to 12 chapters, but it ended up being longer as I wrote the book. And it focuses on the matriarch of the community, Miss Evelyn Bates. She reflects on her years living in Alphabet City and how it's gone from an amazing place to live to one of the worst. Now remember, Alphabet City is a book series that focuses on the inner cities of America and all of the good, bad, ugly, and indifferent that goes on, from gangs to drugs to violence to, the education system, the neighborhoods, fast food joints, liquor stores, all that stuff, right? I am addressing a lot of things. Policing in the inner city, there are a lot of things that I am tackling, and I'm tackling it from different perspectives. So with each book, you are meeting a new character, and that's the whole basis of this Alphabet City series. I'm explaining all of this now because I am breaking this down just in case there are new listeners on here. So if you're listening to my podcast for the first time, welcome. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it greatly. And to write a story from an 80-year-old woman's perspective was surely different for me because I've never written, a book where a character is, of her stature and at her age. And it was a challenge to tell her life story and also share the struggles she experiences living in Alphabet City now. This is a story where you hear what Alphabet City was like before it got progressively worse. When I wrote her story, I wanted to not only share her life, but also how she was able to raise her children in Alphabet City, how she was able to steer them in the right direction, but also chronicle how her kids made it, but a lot of kids don't in this neighborhood. It's the realities of today's world. A lot of kids just don't make it. Their home situations aren't good. Sometimes kids are orphans. Some kids don't have the resources to get the help they need to heal. They deal with PTSD from all the things that they see in their neighborhood. This is a story that delves into all of those things and more. And the beauty in all of this is there are opportunities to change things and make things better. Now, books like this are emotional for me because I've seen it, heard stories from friends who work in the mental health industry, and been in a few tough neighborhoods in my time to see what goes on. It's how I'm able to write a lot of these stories. It's observing and being in environments to feel and experience it. Being from New York City, it's a melting pot of different races, ethnicities, and people. And I've met people in college who have been through the trenches to get to a college campus and escape the neighborhood that they're from. I've had classmates in college who did anything they could to not go back during spring break, summer break, and even Christmas break. Because that's the reality of kids who are able to get out. They don't want to go back to the hell of violence, death, gangs, drug dealing, drug overdoses, police sirens, and bad people. That is just what goes on. It's not a fluke. It's nothing glamorous. There's a lot of glorification of Black men and women being from the hood and making it. That's just something that has infiltrated our Black culture, and it's still there. And it's not anything that I would boast about. I've seen drug deals go down. I've heard gunshots. I've seen, good situations turn bad. I've heard so many stories of friends who have seen certain things, and unfortunately, you become numb to a lot of it, right? Now, with this book here, Miss Evelyn Bates decides to just stay in Alphabet City. She's going to live out the rest of her life in the place that she grew up in. And she has lived there since she was a little child, right? So this is all she knows. This is what she's comfortable with. She's a product of her environment in a lot of ways. And there's a lot of different components to this book and this story. It's not, one or two things. I would say there's probably about 4 or 5 things that I tackle in this book alone. And I felt that I needed to do that in order to really bring out this book series in a way that it's productive, it's heartfelt, and it really gets you to understand what's going on. It's easy to turn on your TV and watch First 48. It's easy to turn on your TV and watch old episodes of Cops. It's easy to, turn on, the news and see all the bad things that are going on. It's much harder to actually pick up a book and read it from various perspectives, right? Because Tiffany, in, her book, which I think is part 7 of this book series, she talks about 2 sides of the spectrum. She's talking about the liquor stores, the fast food restaurants that lead people to where she used to work, which is in a hospital as a nurse. And she's watched people die in front of her eyes from heart disease and high blood pressure and kidney failures, all because of what's around them and in that environment, which made her shift into a juice shop, in which she struggled for quite some time because people are not used to healthier food choices. They are given the McDonald's, the Wendy's, the Popeyes, the KFCs, the Sonics, you name it, it's in the vicinity of certain neighborhoods. Trust me when I tell you, if you go to certain neighborhoods in New York City, it's what you will see. I'm not even kidding. I'm not joking. Trust me. I've been to some neighborhoods and it's like, oh, okay. What I will say to you is this. For those who know Harlem in New York City, which is a certain area of Manhattan, in Upper Manhattan, there are 2 sides of Harlem. There's East Harlem and there's West Harlem. East Harlem is filled with drugs, gangs, violence, killings, and you literally can walk about 10 minutes from the east side to the west side, and they are 2 totally different worlds. It's policed differently. The structure of it is different. The west side of Harlem is filled with restaurants and nice supermarkets and high-rise buildings and all that. It's real. What I'm tackling is basically East Harlem in a nutshell. Certain parts of Washington Heights, certain parts of Dyckman, certain parts of the South Bronx, Hunts Point, and a lot of it's been gentrified, but I don't talk about gentrification in any of my books, and for good reason. And I'll delve into that down the road of why I didn't go down, that path. It shouldn't take gentrification to make a neighborhood better, but neither here or there. There are certain neighborhoods in New York City that I see the gentrification coming. I see certain things are going to happen in the future. And I tell people, certain residents that I'm cool with from New York City, like, Pay attention to this neighborhood. Pay attention to this neighborhood. Because certain neighborhoods have already been gentrified. Trust me. Bed-Stuy is not do or die anymore. It's just Bed-Stuy. It's a totally different it's a whole totally different landscape of just that neighborhood as a whole. And for me to see what it was in 2014, around that time, and then now I can only imagine what it's like. Yeah. So when I talk about writing a book in Alphabet City from a woman's perspective who is 80 years old and has lived in this neighborhood for 70 years, she's seen it go from what is great and there's growth and there's, a lot of opportunities to a neighborhood completely shifting and it just going downhill. And it happens in a lot of neighborhoods. It's happened in a lot of neighborhoods in New York City. So these are just the realities of what goes on in these inner cities. So yeah, I watched a lot of First 48, but then, and seeing a lot of what goes on in other neighborhoods, like in Miami and certain parts of Atlanta and, certain things in Memphis and things like that. Yeah, great. But I've also seen and experienced certain things myself. So that's the basis of what this book series is about. And it's the reason why I'm so passionate on we've got to talk about this stuff. And it's uncomfortable, but it's reality. So that's my podcast for today. Thank you guys for listening. TheAquariumMindPodcast.com is the website. AquariumMindRights.com is my personal website, where the blogs, the books, all that good stuff is there. Announcements, events, things that I got upcoming, things that I've done, whatever the case is. Since we're talking Book Insight Friday, before I go, A Woman's Worth Part 1 and A Woman's Worth Part 2 is available in audio, and you're not going to be hearing my voice. You are going to be hearing an auto-generated woman's voice. I don't like to say female, I like to say woman. So just hang in there with me with that. A woman's voice. Apple is kind of opening things up in regards to narration of audiobooks and it being done from a generated, certain voice. So I will see how things pan out with, Woman's Worth Part 1, Part 2. Down the road, I will probably explore trying to get the other books narrated, through Apple. So definitely check that out. That's why I'm telling you my website. Go to my website. You can find a link and go there if you're in the audio space. And I do have a lot of other audiobooks that I've narrated myself. I Woke Up a Black Man, Code Blue Part 1, 2, and 3, and The Struggles and Growth of Man Part 1. That is also on my website. You can, go on my website, click, it'll take you to where you need to go. All right, everyone, have a good weekend. Be safe, be good, everyone, and go accomplish your goals.